Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. It's your boy Poppy Filpo. Now, today we are talking about the beautiful minds of prisoners of war. All right. Now I know it sounds a little bit weird. Beautiful minds, POWs. How does that work out? Well, I'll tell you. Okay. But before we get started, I just wanted to say that I see a lot of people on social media, especially as we're approaching an election year, getting angry, getting mad, being incredibly sad. There's all sorts of a range of emotions to feel right now. And I just want to re-emphasize that right now, it is illegal to gather in mass numbers and talk to people. It is illegal. And for the past 6 months, there was large restrictions on being able to go out and see 5, 10, 15, 20 of your friends, okay? So we're forced onto these social media platforms to have very serious, complex discourse. And instead of having that, we're just clapping back through text on Facebook or Twitter, and they're really bad communication vehicles. So, but I have some good news. It's not all bad. It ain't all bad, okay? I got some good news, and that is that there's better ways for you right there, you who I'm talking to on the other side of this screen. I wish I could reach right through and freaking say, what up, dog? Because listen, I appreciate you for being here. There are much better ways for you to spend your time than renting out headspace for fuckers on Facebook or Twitter, okay? Think about that. You post something, you clap back at somebody, and you're just checking your phone. What'd they say? 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 Bro, they're renting out your headspace, okay? So now if you can operate on social media and give no fucks, and not have your headspace rented out, that is a true Jedi level to achieve, and that's exactly what I try to do. So in fact, I love learning new things at every turn, and that's why you have a golden opportunity right now. We have all the time in the world right now on our hands. We're all packed inside. Yo, let's use it for good, okay? Let's use it for good. And I love learning new things at every turn, okay? And I'm not preaching like I'm all knowing, but what I am saying is I am going to show you how you can use little tidbits of knowledge that you pick up throughout your day, even when it's boring, and how it can be used in the most dire of circumstances to make you, cement you in the history books as one of the legends. Okay? That's what happens when what makes somebody a prolific person is all in the details, okay? So here's a quote I want to read to you by Auguste Rodin, a French sculptor who is known to be, he's kind of like the father of modern sculpting. He says, nothing is a waste of time if you use the experience wisely, okay? Nothing is a waste of time if you use the experience wisely. So we're going to use the next however long we're going to talk, maybe half an hour, and we're going to use it really wisely, all right? So we're going to get right into it. Ladies and gentlemen, the beautiful minds of prisoners of war. Starting off, we're going to Admiral Jeremiah Denton Jr. In 1965, Admiral Jeremiah Denton Jr. was shot down over North Vietnam. As a result, he was captured and held for nearly 8 grueling years. 8 years. This dude was a prisoner of war. 4 of which were spent in solitary confinement. Okay, solitary confinement. So dude spent 4 years with just his brain. Goddamn. Okay, so as we're all bitching on Facebook and shit with our fucking uncles or whoever you're mad at, think about Admiral Denton for a goddamn second. I'm like projecting right now, but I'm like, I get mad because I'm like, man, y'all, people think they have problems, man. They think they have problems. All right. So at one point, the enemy forced him in front of a camera. Okay, this is Admiral Denton, the North Vietnamese. They put him in front of a camera for propaganda purposes. They wanted to get him to talk, and they wanted to then show it to their people and be like, yo, America's morale is weak. We got him where we want him. However, Admiral Denton used the opportunity to send a distress message. So he's in front of the cameras. They got the bright lights like I got right here shining on his face, right? And he didn't waste an opportunity. He sent a message right in front of his enemy, and they had no idea. He used his eyes to blink the word torture using Morse code, okay? So homie was standing there. He acted like the lights were like really bright. In fact, I'll show you a clip right here, right after this, where I'm done talking. But he used the lights to, as if they were too bright, and he was like, and homie, he tapped out torture. Using Morse code, naval intelligence was then able to decipher his strange blinking, which made them realize that Denton and his fellow POWs were being tortured. So there you go. You might be thinking, like, it doesn't take a wizard to know that, but back then, at that time, that was valuable info. Okay. He was awarded the Navy Cross for his heroism as a prisoner of war. All right, so that's number 1. Admiral Jeremiah Denton Jr. Amazing. Did not waste an opportunity. Somewhere along the lines, the dude learned Morse code, and he and if that, and there's more to him. I'm gonna go through a couple of people right now, but come on, how baller is that? Dude didn't give up. The enemy's got him in front of a fucking camera. They've been torturing him. And by the way, I believe Denton went on to you know, just, you know, for the most part, he sticks to the script. You're like, if you get captured as a prisoner of war, we'll go into it here a little bit later in the episode, but there's like 4 things you really have to remember, and that's all you have to say. And they'll torture you, okay? And we'll keep going. Let's keep getting into it. Let's keep getting into it, okay? Colonel Carlisle Harris. Colonel Carlisle Harris was a prisoner of war for 2,871 days during the Vietnam War. He is credited with introducing tap code to his fellow prisoners of war. So the video I'm about to show you was shot and edited by my buddy Jimmy, Jimmy D. Shea. You can check out his YouTube channel, his personal one. And I wanted to share a few clips with you because it's incredibly important for you folks to watch it, okay? So please stick with me. Please. If you're a red-blooded American and you're goddamn proud to be an American, let's sit here for the next 3 minutes and watch this video because it is so important, okay?
There was a bridge that the North Vietnamese had built, and it was an essential part of the Ho Chi Minh Trail, so it was a very important target. As I released the bombs, some lucky gunner got an exploding anti-aircraft round that hit my engine, and I knew I had to eject, and I did so. Part of our training in fighters was to go through a survival training program, and while I was there, I was in a class, and a master sergeant happened to be the instructor, and he was explaining how in World War II, prisoners held by the Germans were able to communicate between 2 buildings by tapping on a water pipe. And as I was walking out of the class, the instructor was just beside me, and I said, "How did they send the dashes?" And he said, "Oh, I should explain. It was not the Morse code. It was a tap code. They were not teaching it as part of the program, but I just happened by chance to learn it from this instructor." So after I was shot down in North Vietnam, I was one of the very early shoot downs, and I was able to communicate that tap code to some other POWs. As we were moved into other camps away from Hanoi, always someone took the tap code with them and was able to pass it on. So no matter where you went in the POW system in North Vietnam, if you heard this, the guy on the other side of the wall would, and you started the communication process. I guess the reason we all knew it was so important is it was a morale factor, of course, just to be able to communicate. We helped each other when someone was taken out and badly mistreated for days or whatever, and finally came back to his cell. He would be physically, mentally, emotionally almost a basket case. After his door was closed and the turnkey left, and the first thing he would hear is that's GBU. And he would, take strength from that, knowing that we understood.
Bud had just been admitted that day to hospice, And Dory and I went in the other room to talk so that Smitty and Bud could have a time together. And in a few minutes, Smitty came out of the room and his eyes had welled up. And he was not actively crying, but I could tell it was right there, just ready to happen. And as we got in the car, Smitty said, the tears came down. He said, "You know what just happened?" And I said, "What?" And he said, "When I started to leave Bud, he reached up and grabbed my hand, and on the back of my hand, he tapped GDU." And both of us kind of lost it at that point, because that code meant so much to them. And it still does.
So tap code was a secret form of communicating where a person would tap the corresponding letter in the alphabet to communicate with a fellow prisoner of war. When a fellow prisoner of war would return from being tortured, Colonel Harris and his men would tap messages to that person, right? So if someone just got tortured and they're coming back, and by the way, they're in the Hanoi Hilton, right? Like the most infamous torture center of the North Vietnamese at the time. And, you know, someone just got done being tortured by the enemy. I don't even want to think about what that was like. And then they come back to their prison cell, might as well just probably wishing to be dead. And to hear your boys down the hall tapping. And what they were tapping was GBU. God bless you. Which stood, it stood for more than just God bless you. It stood for morale, hope, you know. And this basic form of human interaction lifted the prisoners' morale during their darkest moments of captivity. Colonel Harris learned about this valuable information out of sheer curiosity. That's it. He wasn't required to learn tap code. You know, it wasn't on a test. It wasn't in the syllabus. He stopped by an instructor after class one day, and they were bullshitting. And while they were shooting the shit, the instructor told him about tap code. And that just piqued his interest. He was like, "Well, can you explain what is tap code?" And he goes, "Oh, I need to tell you this, blah, blah, blah." And like they go down this rabbit hole, and on this off chance, Colonel Harris learns tap code. Now, if Colonel Harris, as he was walking out of that classroom that day, fully applied himself, you know, he probably did everything that was asked of him. But had he not had the little bit of curiosity as he was going through that doorway to catch the eye of the instructor and be like, "Hey, can you tell me about tap code?" Or whatever it was. I don't even want to imagine a reality like that. I don't know what would happen in the Hanoi Hilton if Colonel Harris hadn't learned tap code when he was younger. So, communication can boost morale, and when these guys were getting tortured, they were on the brink of insanity. But you know what brought them back from the edge? It was the other prisoners who would tap GBU. And Colonel Harris's curiosity was invaluable when he learned tap code there. You could not put a price tag on that little tidbit of knowledge. Who could ever think? You know, and thank God that this man is a patriot. Thank God that this man was in our military, was on our side. And because when the North Vietnamese, when they're over there, they're torturing his brothers in a camp, hey, guess who brought him back from the edge, you know? And thanks to his little monkey brain, Colonel Harris was able to bring his men back from the edge. That's a beautiful thing. So we're making good use of our time, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the podcast. Moving on. Donald Cook, the only Marine to earn a Medal of Honor for actions as a POW. Okay, so after only 18 days in country, he's in Vietnam for only 18 days. Can you imagine this? Right now, you get out of boot camp, you ship overseas to a jungle somewhere. You're there for 2 weeks. Well, Captain Cook and his fellow Marines became engaged in a firefight with the North Vietnamese, and after being shot in the leg, Cook passed out from loss of blood. When he awoke, he found himself the first Marine officer taken prisoner in Vietnam. So can you imagine, bro? You wake up, prisoner of war. By the way, first officer to become a prisoner of war. You're probably like, fuck. Anyway, not to make light of Mr. Cook's situation, but I have to imagine he'd be thinking that. So by all accounts, the action in which he was captured displayed none of the characteristics one might associate with a Medal of Honor recipient. Okay, when you hear about this, dude touches ground on, feet touch the ground basically, And a couple days later, shot, wakes up, he's a prisoner. That sounds pretty crappy. However, Cook's place among the gallant men in the history of war would come as a prisoner of war. Despite harsher treatment for doing so, it was his policy to give the big four and nothing more. So this is what we talked about before. If you get captured as a prisoner of war, name, rank, service number, date of birth. That's it. That's all the Vietnamese would ever learn from Donald Cook. However, the gifted linguist would work hard to stay one step ahead of his foe. He continued to learn and master the Vietnamese language while in captivity, although he never once spoke it to his captors. So, keep this in mind. This dude, he is gifted at being a linguist, okay? Homie knew a couple of different languages going over to Vietnam. He did not know Vietnamese. During his time being captured there, what did Big Brain do over there? Yo, he learned the language, dog, and used it against him. He helped lead a failed escape attempt on at least one occasion, right? So, again, if you're a prisoner of war, this is what they say, you make every attempt to escape. You deny them at every turn. But due to the weak physical condition of the prisoners, they were unable to make it. He was severely beaten as a senior officer for doing so, and it was on this occasion that a pistol was placed to his head, and he gave his famous line, "You can't kill me, only God can decide when I die." That's what he said. He said, "You can't kill me, only God can decide when I die." Now, as fate would have it, Captain Cook would prove that statement true. It wasn't the beatings, the starvation, or the bullet that took Captain Cook's life. Instead, it was actually a bite from one mosquito. Captain Cook died of malaria in December of 1967, just shy of 3 years in captivity. So there you go. That's Cook, right there. That is a linguist, the only Marine to earn the Medal of Honor for his actions as a POW. And on to our last one, Navy Vice Admiral James Stockdale. So by late summer of 1965, James Stockdale had already flown nearly 200 combat missions in his career. On September 9th, while on his third tour of duty to Vietnam, by the way, these all just happened to be Vietnam, Stockdale's A4 Skyhawk was shot down. He ejected over a small village and was captured. Suffering from several broken bones, Stockdale was taken to a prisoner of war camp, and again, the famous Hanoi Hilton, which was known for its brutality. Stockdale, who was the highest-ranking Navy officer POW in Vietnam, was held there for nearly 8 years. 8 freaking years, man. All right, so during an Academy of Achievement interview, Mr. Stockdale is quoted saying, "We had a war to fight, and we're committed to fighting it from lonely concrete boxes. Our very fiber and sinew were the only weapons at our disposal. Each man's values from his own private sources provided the strength, enabling him to maintain his sense of purpose and dedication. They placed unity above self, and self-indulgence was a luxury that could not be afforded." Okay? This is a selfless individual. Stockdale became a symbol of resistance. One of his famous acts of defiance was cutting his own wrists, showing the enemy that he would rather die than tell them anything. While the enemy revived him, the act was credited with helping end the North Vietnamese use of excessive torture towards POWs, because what they found was, damn, these Americans are crazy. They'll kill themselves before they tell us anything, especially if we push them too far. So, Mr. Stockdale, being a goddamn red-blooded American he is, I don't recommend this, obviously, but he slit his fucking wrists. So there you go. So again, a lot of these stories are related to the Vietnam War, and one of my dear friends and mentors is Chip Mori. So Chip is one of my favorite people in the whole wide world. He's been a mentor of mine. He's specifically a photographer type, and I'm more heavier into video, but any communicating in general. But regardless, the dude, when I was 18 years old, young 18-year-old Marine. And this guy was like, Chip used to buddy around with the Navy SEALs in Vietnam. He's very well known for partnering with the Navy SEALs and then basically becoming one of them. Believe it or not, that's how close the bonds were that, hey, this was Vietnam and they were doing some crazy shit. So Chip's 20 years of military service included 3 tours to Vietnam. He served as a Navy UDT SEAL photographer, specializing in diving and freefall photography. As a civilian, he went on to become the director of photography for the Providence Journal Bulletin, followed by the Indianapolis Star. Today, he continues to mentor military communicators throughout our entire military. So, I love Chip. I love him very much. He's like a grandfather to me. and I thought it was important to capture his story. So we're talking about, just like we talked a lot about these prisoners of war and using your brain, learning at every turn. A lot of these prisoners of war would not have been prolific, would not have been successful if they didn't use their brain. So I'm going to show you, this is Life Lessons with Chip Mori. I shot and edited this video about 1.5 years ago in South Carolina before coronavirus hit us. So I'm going to leave you guys with this video. I appreciate you guys for watching all the way to now. Sorry, this is an emotional video for me because, yeah, I love Chip very much. So enjoy. And thank you for watching. All right, bye everybody.
Hey. I ask people, do you think I'm an extrovert or an introvert? And they say, oh, you're an extrovert. I said, no, I'm a painfully shy introvert. It's the camera that allows me, this is my purpose, and that takes me places. So I'll walk up to somebody and say, I got a question for you. And they're going, oh, shit. How are you today? Oh, I'm fine, how are you? Oh, much better now that I have you here. I've had people tell other people, that Chip Mori is a great conversationalist. You know why? I ain't saying a goddamn word. And all I'm doing is asking these open-ended questions. And they just keep talking and talking and talking. Invest in you by being filled with a little daring do, you know, and push yourself. Push yourself. You have to invest the time on yourself. You have to love yourself and set goals, and you have to work on your craft as well as your reputation every single day. So this is Bud Gardner from SEAL Team 1, Alpha Platoon, and I'm out there working with these guys, and it was like I had an open-ended set of orders. I could go anywhere. And then I got up to the point where the boss saw the value of documenting what's going on, and that's what I did. The images, you know, like Bud Gardner, will last in that family until they turn to dust. And it doesn't interest me that somebody remembered my name. That's not my immortality. My immortality is I have created something and I have given it to you, and that you cherish this. You cherish it. That's your family. That's your history, and it has not only it's a pretty good picture, but it has a lot of depth of meaning to it. I like that idea. I've said it to so many people. Hackman and I sitting there crying in our beer, everything's going to fail when, it's all going to stop when we don't do this anymore. And the next year, JT, Benny, and all these people came up like that, and I punched them and I said, we can duck out here right now. This thing is going to continue forever. Same language, different accent. The enthusiasm, the excitement, the sense of purpose that we have in this community is just so nice. And it's not with other ratings. I mean, job, MOSs, and so you might have it with corpsmen or EMTs or something like that, but I don't think you have that with a bunch of nose pickers. Engine mechanics, that's what they are.